What's up? It's the Monster Man here, back talking about another comic, and we really need to talk about Static Season 1. It's amazing, and I need more yesterday. I'm someone who grew up watching the Static Shock cartoon as a kid, and Static being a black superhero I could identify with really resonated with me, and he is likely the reason I got into comics and superheroes in the first place. So much of his life lined up with my own. He was smart, he lived in the suburbs, around people of a lot of different cultures, used slang, and even his family reminded me of my own. With his father always giving him advice and his sister butting heads with him, his life felt like a stone's throw away from mine, and I always wanted to be like him and see what he gets up to. A modern take on this character is something I've wanted to see for a long time. I never read the original Milestone rendition of the character because the artwork didn't resonate with me, and I felt like I didn't recognize the character since the version I was used to was so ingrained with the Cartoon Network design. I ended up passing over the New 52 entry point because I felt like DC Rebirth made it feel kind of irrelevant before I could even get to it. And it was clear to me that Static wouldn't be getting any more issues for quite a while, and I was right. And let's just admit that the New 52 costume was whack as hell. Static Season 1 is a take I feel like is worth jumping into for people looking for an updated entry point. It has amazing character designs and a killer art style with coloring that's reminiscent of Korean manhwa, where the neon colors can really jump off the page. As someone who's a fan of manhwa and manga stylings, I knew this would be an instant pickup for me. It covers everything you remember about Static and recontextualizes it for the modern era in ways that were smarter than I even expected. The writing is actually so good, and I need other people to come on this ride with me, so don't forget to sound off in the comments if you love the story too. Today I thought I'd break down issue 1 of season 1 and explain what I love about the story and some differences to the Cartoon Network series as I go through it, and explain why you should pick up the issue if you want to rekindle your love for Static Shock. Issue 1, Trial by Fire, follows events that I believe take place in Milestone Returns issue 0. That isn't really required reading to jump into, because it covers basically everything you need to know from that issue. The story opens with Virgil contemplating how his powers have changed him, and how they create an urge in him to release them. He refers to this feeling as a buzzing in his head that won't stop. This establishes early on that the powers are as much of a burden as they are a gift, because they constantly want to be used and released. They're impacting his state of mind, and he reflects on how he almost killed Francis, his school bully, when he finally cracked from the pressure of the bullying and took matters into his own hands, using his powers to bring him down. You'll recognize Francis from the animated Static Shock series, reprising his role as Hot Streak and Static's early nemesis. After contemplating this, Static gets up from his meditation and leaves for school, but as he heads out, he butts heads with his sister at the door, who suggests he stay home for another day, noticing how distressed he looks. Virgil rudely brushes her off, but Sharon isn't having it and pushes him up against the wall, establishing that she's not afraid of her brother and isn't going to just let him push her around. I love their sibling dynamic because it reminds me of my own. It's a push and a pull, kind but never missing the opportunity to poke fun. But it's rooted in a shared love they have for each other, and it does come across as the series goes on. You can tell that these characters really care. Virgil immediately apologizes, but he still makes his way to school, even though he recognized he went a little overboard there. Then we get an expedition dump by a character I believe is new, Darius. Darius is probably my favorite new addition to the main crew, for reasons I'll get to when I cover later issues, but he is a modern day live streamer and podcaster, and his exposition is in the form of him recording a podcast about the Big Bang event, which I think is a clever way to incorporate a modern element into the story. He tells about the Big Bang and how an untested chemical mutated a lot of local kids, and how it's a story of mistreatment the media doesn't want to cover. It's a story that echoes real world events like the US government experimenting on black communities by introducing cocaine into their communities, and also touches on current issues like police brutality. It's a shame that so many years have passed and these topics are still relevant with this story. But Milestone has always been known for holding up political lens to their stories, and I like that this comic continues doing that. Darius's podcasting does feel natural, which is a big reason why I like this update. It really does bring it to the modern era, because you could definitely see a high school student holding a podcast like this after getting a bit of popularity and wanting to cover local events. And even though it's issue 1, this isn't a throwaway character. He does recur quite often as the series goes on. So as far as an exposition dump can go, this is probably the best way that I think they could have incorporated it. After that, the story picks up with Virgil roaming around the school, walking past the lockers where his fight with Francis took place, and it is still scorched from their battle. He's anxious and thinks all the kids are talking about how he took out the biggest bully in the school, but then he runs into his friends, Richie and Frida, and it's revealed that no one except his close friends saw the fight, because Virgil took out the camera ahead of time, and now Derek, a star basketball player, is claiming that he has powers and he's the one who took out Francis. Richie and Frida reveal that they let the rumor persist because they thought it helped Virgil, and it did. He continues being normal for another day. I think it was a smart way to let Virgil avoid some unnecessary conflict. Frida and Richie are a big part of the series as well, and I like it that way. These two characters show later on that common sense gets you pretty far, and I like when normal people get a chance to shine in superhero stories. Frida is playing a prominent love interest as she did in the original Milestone comics, right from the start. Virgil expresses to the reader that he has strong feelings for her, but they keep the relationship three-dimensional. Virgil's put off by Frida trying to relate to his experience as a Bang Baby. It's revealed she was at the event, but she didn't get gassed like Virgil, and she didn't have a near-death experience like he did, and that seems to be putting a slight wall between them, as Virgil literally ducks her advance to put her arm around him. Virgil thanks Richie and Frida while walking away and establishes that they are still true friends by making plans with them over the weekend. After that, we time skip to a family dinner. The dinner starts cordial, but it becomes apparent that tensions are high. His family knows all about his powers right from the start, which I think is a change from the animated series, and I welcome that change. It's a good shift on the formula for the whole family to be involved at the start, and it makes sense given how public the Bang Baby event was that they would be aware of his powers. Static's parents are concerned with his mental health, and we get good character moments here where we see the difference between his mom and his dad. As his mom suggests therapy and Static's dad suggests restarting his martial arts training for self-defense and mental discipline. This serves double duty as an explanation of where Static learned to fight that I really enjoy because every hero needs that "where did you learn that from" origin. And I like that it's from his dad. Highlighting Static is all about the family dynamics. They ask Static what he needs, and he only thinks on how he wants things to go back to normal and how he wants the buzzing from his powers to stop. Before he can tell his family that though, Francis appears outside his house, fully clad in flames and looking for a fight. Virgil's quick on his feet and goes out to confront him. The coloring of this page is amazing. Everything just pops. The framing makes Francis look huge and opposing, and it's clear that the climax of the issue is about to take place. Virgil shows his bravery by heading out and trying to get Francis away from the house, and a great example of showing the trait of bravery and quick wits without explicitly telling the reader that. Then a knockdown fight ensues, and the panels of the battle are so amazing that I don't want to show them all here, so you can read it for yourself. One thing I love about this series is how it balances the plot with the action. The art and the action scenes has so much movement and incorporates techniques that look like motion blur and amazing key poses. I swear this would be great animated, but it's a good reading experience as well. Virgil uses his trademark knowledge of science to win the fight by creating an ion charge field around Francis to force him to burn out. Right when Virgil thinks he's won though, Francis gets a second wave of energy and sucker punches Virgil. Francis then turns and burns his house down, leaving the issue on a cliffhanger about what's going to happen next. I love that the series is sticking to Virgil's aspect of having to use his magnetic abilities in combination with actual science, like creating that ion field that'll get rid of the oxygen. It serves to ground the character and make him not feel overpowered even though he has these really strong powers. And it also keeps things interesting by introducing conflict that he has to overcome with each opponent he faces, because he's not immediately stronger than a lot of the Bang Babies. And that was something I always loved watching in the cartoon, and to see it in an updated comic is even more fun. This also shows Virgil making mistakes, which I like to see in early superhero comic. It shows that he's not just ready right out the gate. He didn't make sure that Francis was down and ended up getting sucker punched and lost his house because of it. So even though that's disheartening to see, it does make the story feel more real. And that's something I commend the writers for including. This story is amazing. I was going to cover the entire series in one video until I realized how much I had to say on each individual issue. There's a great balance of social commentary, drama, and action in the series, and the art is top notch in my opinion, with a style that feels tailor-made to this series and unique to comics as a whole. I hope this inspires you to go out and give this series a try, and I'll continue to cover my thoughts on the additional issues soon. If you like this series, or I got something wrong, or really anything, leave me a comment down below, because I love to hear what other people's thoughts are on this series, and thanks for watching my video.